Well, the future of Kingda Ka roller coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson Township, Ocean County remains uncertain tonight. Several videos on social media have many people believing that this roller coaster is being shut down for good. And that could be
the conclusion to this story is bad. It's no grand hurrah, it's not a noble ending, but rather a sad whimper of an outcome. In the world of theme parks, no matter the emotional attachment, it seems the wallet always wins out. To truly understand how we got where we are, we need to look at the whole history. And to know the whole history, you're going to have to watch this video.
There's a great day waiting for you with everything you want.
Welcome to the 80s. By this point, theme parks had existed for almost 100 years, and in that time many different amusement parks had popped up around the nation. One of the most successful was Cedar Point on Lake Erie in Sandusky, Ohio. Before the 80s, they had amassed a respectable lineup of thrill rides, but they wanted more. Inspired by similar Japanese roller coasters, leadership contracted Aerodynamics of Disney fame to build a tall, fast roller coaster with no inversions. To fund the ride, the park went public in 1987, and 2 years later, Magnum XL 200 officially opened to the public for $8 million, or about $20 million today. This ride hit a lot of milestones. It was the tallest roller coaster in the world, the fastest, and to almost everyone at the time, it was a jaw-dropping experience they'd never seen before. Progression in an industry is so natural, it can sometimes be shocking where you end up. Magnum XL 200 would ultimately serve as just a stepping stone, setting off a series of dominoes into the fog of the future. Cedar Point didn't know it then, but they had just started a war. The other faction in this conflict is Six Flags, a name which I'm betting most of you have probably heard of. In the industry, Six Flags' philosophy has always been defined by quantity. By this point, they had gone on an acquisition spree, amassing a nationwide park lineup. So, when Cedar Point started building record-breaking, never-before-seen rides, Six Flags thought to do the same, but more. In the 1990s, they focused on adding a variety of new European-manufactured roller coasters to the park chains, and Cedar Point for their parks followed suit. This expansion, largely thanks to the rise in computer technology, allowed designers to push the limits of what roller coasters could be. Six Flags was acquired by Premier Parks in 1998, further expanding the number of parks they operated to 17. By the end of the 90s, 76 roller coasters had been installed at either Six Flags or Cedar Fair parks. That's an average of 7.6 per year. To put that in perspective, 30 roller coasters were installed the decade before, and 50 have been installed in the last 10 years since present day. Most notably, Six Flags Magic Mountain would take the record for tallest roller coaster twice. First in 1997 with Superman Escape from Krypton, and then again in 2000, opening Goliath, the tallest full-circuit roller coaster in the world. Here's those rides' respective costs. Generally, these jaw-dropping roller coasters were coming with jaw-dropping prices. The roller coaster obsession was in full force, and it would only get crazier going into the new millennium. Going from 100 feet to 200 feet took decades, but the jump from 200 to 300 took only a decade. And it makes sense that Cedar Point again would be the one to do it. With help from Intamin, one of those European manufacturers, they opened Millennium Force, the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world at the cost of $25 million. Once again, Cedar Point had created a ride for the history books. Next Six Flags Magic Mountain roller coaster, X, a roller coaster so expensive at $45 million that it caused its manufacturer to go bankrupt. Next Cedar Point roller coaster, 420 feet tall. Cannabis is legal in Ohio. This rapid-fire installation of roller coasters in the early 2000s really caused the roller coaster war to start to slip out of Six Flags' hands. X was a failure, and on top of that, it cost only $5 million less than Cedar Point's last two roller coasters combined. Meanwhile, Cedar Point had installed smash hits in Millennium Force and Top Thrill Dragster, meaning Six Flags needed to make another investment to stay competitive. Because of this, the company worked to build a ride to rival Dragster, something taller, something faster, something that would turn the heads of all who witnessed it. Thus, the purpose of this video was born for Six Flags Great Adventure. Kingda Ka opened on May 21st, 2005 for $25 million. Even before it opened, the message spread of the new roller coaster opening in New Jersey, with newspapers challenging riders to come and experience the ride. For most, they had never seen a ride as tall as Kingda Ka, and going out and riding it became something of a communal, unforgettable experience. I myself rode Kingda Ka in 2021, and there are millions like me who have faced the ride and think fondly of it to this day. It became a symbol for Six Flags thrill, and their final triumph in the roller coaster wars. The overall expansion for Great Adventure was Six Flags' largest single park investment in history. Despite the money put in, the ride still often was troubled with downtime, and the park had to hire its own maintenance team just for the roller coaster. The ride struggled to justify its massive cost, not only to build, but to maintain. Kingda Ka's issues were not just confined to itself either, but rather it was a representation of the issues surrounding Six Flags' philosophy this entire time. And it was all about to come crashing down.
Today's turbulent economy has created quite a ride for amusement park company Six Flags. Just yesterday, they filed for bankruptcy. 22 News reporter Anthony.
You can't keep building roller coasters when you are losing money, especially when it is a lot of money. By the financial crisis of 2008, Six Flags was running on empty and were forced into filing for bankruptcy. The effects from this were massive. Parks were sold. They ousted the chairman of the board, Dan Snott. Oh my god. Most importantly, or second most importantly, Six Flags' philosophy was altered. While they still adored quantity and their massive park lineup, they shifted to rides of lower quality to be able to accomplish their goals for cheaper. Cedar Point had shifted strategy too, finding their success with smaller scale rides like Maverick, which while not record-breaking, still provided a great rider experience. Meanwhile, Six Flags pivoted to a smaller scale copy-and-paste business model, as Six Flags Great Adventure went 15 years without a new original coaster. Still, Kingda Ka stood proudly in the background, serving as a reminder of what once was, and offering its memorable experience to new riders. As the years went on, Six Flags and Cedar Point continued to follow their formula. Six Flags would install a new ride at every single one of their theme parks each year, and Cedar Point would move a slower but more calculating pace. For the people in the industry, Six Flags became known as a cheap experience for the masses, while Cedar Point was the refined cream of the crop for thrill seekers. Either way, across the 2010s, both strategies worked extremely well for both companies. The thriving economy allowed both to massively grow in stock price and continue to install rides at their park. The only thing that could stop that growth was like an event where people stop going outside. Uh-oh. 2020 was a terrible year for the roller coaster industry, and stunted, if not reversed, all growth both Six Flags and Cedar Point had over the 2010s. Most parks were closed for the whole year, and Six Flags had to give up on commitments to install a new ride at every park each year. Cedar Point fared better, but still, the vision of both companies had to adjust to the times. While they both looked for new ways to better their financial outlook, they got a new idea. A merger. Merger rumors had come and gone before, but nothing previously had been realized. Then, one day, all of a sudden, a news article popped up. And a rumor was seemingly becoming the truth. Six Flags and Cedar Fair, Cedar Point's parent company, were merging. People complained about it online, but it just kept moving forward, and on July 1st, 2024, the merger was complete. It's weird seeing Cedar Point being called a Six Flags park, but that's the way it goes. It's funny too, because this may be one of the most strict federal trade commissions we have seen in recent years, and still they saw no issue with the two largest regional theme park chains merging to form one massive company. With the merger, cost cutting was at the top of the agenda, so Six Flags started removing certain rides from all their parks to save money. Because people don't pay per attraction, Six Flags removes rides based on an abstract metric, where they measure if ridership matches the ride's cost to maintain. So, rides that get removed are the roller coasters that people are not riding anymore, because it still costs a lot to perform maintenance. A lot of the casualties of this decision make sense. Outdated, underridden rides where parts were getting increasingly hard to find. Oh yeah, and Kingda Ka. You know, Kingda Ka really was outdated in its design, and parts were getting increasingly hard to find. What it did still have was massive amounts of ridership and a worldwide reputation. It mattered to people that rode it, it mattered to the park, and it mattered to the industry. The possibility of closure started as rumors about a month before its final day of operation. More and more confirmation came in, only providing less doubt about the ride's fate. It culminated on the 11th of November, the rumored closure date, when enthusiasts came from all over to get their final rides on the King. And the next day, the ride was closed. We don't know for certain when the decision to close the ride was made, but this sequence of events indicates that the decision did not come from the Six Flags Great Adventure itself, but rather top brass establishing their control and new ethos for running the company. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I've always known about Kingda Ka before I was even really part of the roller coaster community. The images of its launch and top hat, its status as the tallest roller coaster in the world, were just things I knew. That was before I'd even rode it. After riding it, I understand its reputation even more. The ride is memorable. For people, it can be a source of pride and accomplishment that they'll get to keep with them. It really sucks when all that is stripped away just for a better number on a balance sheet. There's a lot to be sad about in regards to this story. The fact that this merger was ever allowed to happen, the fact that it is removing a beloved attraction, and just the general state that this is leaving the theme park industry in. Ultimately though, unless you're a higher up in the new Six Flags Corporation, there's nothing to be done. The future of Kingda Ka is demolition, according to permits in mid-February. For its replacement, we can only guess, but the story of this ride is over. Over the past few months, I really enjoyed watching the community come together to reminisce over this ride. It has been a staple attraction for roller coaster enthusiasts, creating memories for everyone who decided to ride the tallest roller coaster in the world. No one forgets that they rode Kingda Ka. It is a lifelong memory. For my own family, who I've been lucky enough to ride many different roller coasters with, Kingda Ka has been one of the highlights. We could be sad for sure, but while the ride will be gone, our memories won't be. No matter what ride replaces it, no matter how many years pass, we will always remember the King.
For 2026 as well. I remember going on Kingda Ka. I think that ride first came out in 2005. And I remember seeing that loop at the top and then seeing the coaster come back down because there's a chance it may not make it over. So I'm excited to see what they come up with next.
And you and I both love a roller coaster, so we're here for the thrills on that.